This video is brought to you in collaboration with wowhead.com. Hello everyone! World of Warcraft Chronicles Volume 3 was released last week, which continues the storyline where Volume 2 left off. That one wrapped up the storyline of the first and second Horde invasion, Draenor turning into Outland, and the Sons of Lothar sealing off the Dark Portal. This means that Volume 3, it covers the aftermath of victory, the events of Warcraft 3, classic Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King, all the way to the end of the Cataclysm, with every comic, short story and novel in between. That's a lot of story to cover in only 220 pages, so I won't go into all the little details. I'll cover the major things that stood out for me, and hopefully get you interested in the Chronicles. As usual, when we do a collab like this, more details can be found within the Wowhead article, and I'll be giving away my second copy that came in. I'll be giving away my second Volume 3, more details on that later on. So just like in the past, the Legion is not giving up their hopes and dreams of conquering Azeroth. The Horde might have failed it, mainly because of infighting, but Kil'jaeden had a brand new idea. He would make an army with a single purpose, the Scourge, one that would not fall to the same weaknesses as the Horde had. The Orc Ner'zhul is captured, and since they changed that whole relationship between Kil'jaeden and Ner'zhul, with Gul'dan now having a more prominent role, now they actually have the Dreadlords helping with the torturing. Ner'zhul's will is broken, and he agrees to become the Lich King, with the confirmation that his armor, the Blade Frostmourne and the Citadel, they were created by the Dreadlords. They were smart enough to not make themselves vulnerable to Frostmourne and its soul-sucking abilities, which is the reason why Mal'Ganis' soul, when he was taken out by Arthas, his soul was not taken by Frostmourne, he just returned to the Twisting Nether. Kil'jaeden did not fully trust his creation, so he had the Dreadlords go with him to keep an eye on all these events, but Ner'zhul was very smart, and also hell-bent on vengeance to make Kil'jaeden pay. He played the part of obedient servant, worked on getting the Legion into the world, and with each mind that he brought under his control, his power and influence grew. He played the Dreadlords like a boss, pretending to go along with their plans, but ultimately wanted to break from their control and actually succeeding. Prince Arthas, he was selected to become his champion, and I always assumed that the Lich King had his eyes on him for a much longer period of time, especially since we have events with Invincible that played such a big part in Arthas' motivation. Invincible and those events are not even mentioned. Now it's more because the Lich King observed him while trying to combat the plague. He noticed his charisma, his natural leadership skills and confidence, as well as his anger and desperation, which made him the perfect target. They guided him to Northrend, had Kel'thuzad point him towards Mal'Ganis. Muradin was guided towards Frostmourne and Northrend, and even to the random encounter that we witnessed within Warcraft 3. Arthas picks up Frostmourne, he gets his vengeance, and he becomes the first of the Lich King's Death Knights, wanting nothing but to serve his master. That's probably one of the more bigger disappointments from the Chronicles. In the past, Arthas had a much more personal motivation to follow that road into damnation. All along the way, he was doubting himself, and even near the end, just before merging with Ner'zhul, the whispers of the past still haunted him.
You lied to your men and betrayed the mercenaries who fought for you. What's happening to you, Arthas?
Now it's more in the sense of serving the Lich King, serving his master, and as we know, his journey would ultimately lead him to merging and fulfilling Ner'zhul's plans.
Now, we are one.
Arthas is merged with Ner'zhul, the vision in his mind of stabbing in a Frostmourne that was not described in detail. Instead, both of their spirits, they coexisted within the same physical body. Over time, Arthas had concluded that sharing the Lich King's might with Ner'zhul, that would only lead to disagreements, confusion and disorder. Only a single mind would wield this power with precision and harness his true potential. Arthas had tried to overwhelm the Orc spirits, and Ner'zhul was nearly destroyed. That's probably the part of stabbing him. Arthas had sat on the frozen throne, satisfied that he was in complete control of the Lich King's strength, the sole ruler of the Scourge. After a few years though, he realized that he'd been wrong. Deep within his mind, he could feel Ner'zhul struggling to wake up. The two beings went to war for permanent control of the Lich King's power. Ner'zhul having the initial advantage, for he had lived with his power far longer than Arthas had, but Arthas, he was prideful, stubborn and determined. He found the single weakness in Ner'zhul's soul, the lingering guilt over his unwinning role in enslaving the Orc race to the Legion. Arthas had long since buried his own guilt, the murder of his father, the innocents that he slaughtered, and all the rest of his betrayals. He no longer felt an ounce of sorrow about any of it. Through force of will, Arthas clawed his way through the Orc's mental wounds, and he tore apart Ner'zhul's mind. As the Lich King's body sat motionless on the frozen throne, Arthas took complete control. The process was agonizing for Ner'zhul. Not only did Arthas drown him in his guilt, but he deliberately snapped the bonds of his sanity, causing the orcs to spiral further and further into despair. When the final battle was through, nothing remained of Ner'zhul but a wail of sorrow in the back of the Lich King's consciousness, a wail of sorrow that Arthas found easy to ignore. Now working against the Legion and breaking free from their control that had to first play the part of the obedient servants, Archimonde had to be brought into the world, and for that, Kel'thuzad was resurrected with the powers of the Sunwell, which in turn corrupted the fount of power and leaving the High Elves, now calling themselves the Blood Elves, in a bit of a pickle. The Scourge marches on to Dalaran to collect the Book of Medivh, but not only that, they also pick up the Skull of Gul'dan. These two artifacts, they were sent to Azeroth by Khadgar, and originally not much was known about what happened to the Skull of Gul'dan. We just saw it show up and be claimed by Illidan, but now we know that Tychondrius, he actually joined Kel'thuzad and Arthas into Dalaran as they went in to claim the Book of Medivh. The Dreadlord picked up the skull, infused it with more fel, making it even more powerful and perfect for the job of corrupting the lands. That is, when Illidan found it, and while in the past Arthas was ordered to point the demon hunter to the skull, now he comes up with a plan all by himself. Illidan absorbed its powers and memories, used it to take out Tychondrius, which did indeed save the land, but it also earned him a banishment.
So be it, brother.
The Legion, including Archimonde, Manoroth, and Doomlord Khazak, they're summoned into the world by Kel'thuzad, and they set their eyes on the World Tree of Ner'zhul. This tree had been grown over the new Well of Eternity after the War of the Ancients, and its powers, the powers of the Well, they would allow the Legion to finish what it started, give them the power needed to bring Sargeras into the world. These plans of the Legion, they did not go unnoticed. One in particular, the Guardian Medivh, he was once corrupted by the spirit of Sargeras, and he was responsible for opening up the Dark Portal and bringing the Horde into the world. Khadgar, Garona, and Lothar, they found out about this corruption, they confronted him, they killed him, but his spirit was now drifting beyond the borders of reality. He watched the plague spread, touched the minds of demons to find out what they were up to, and he wanted nothing more than to warn the world of what was coming. In her dreams, he made contact with his mother Egwene. She used the powers to resurrect her son, and he goes about warning the world of this threat. Not a lot of people are actually interested in listening to this madman, but eventually Thrall, with his newly formed horde, liberated from the internment camps, and Jaina Proudmoore, leading the remnants of the Alliance, they meet up and they decide to work together. Even the Night Elves figure out that something's up. Tyrande wakes up her beloved Malfurion. She releases Illidan from its prison, who's then banished afterwards. And together, these three factions, the Night Elves, the Alliance, and the Horde, they're united by Medivh. While they buy themselves all the time that they can, the Druids use the enchantments upon Ner'zhul to blow up Archimonde, and Medivh from afar, he surveyed the war-torn world and was relieved by what he saw. The Legion's invasion had failed. Azeroth was safe for now. Medivh knew that other threats, like the Lich King, they had lurked in the dark corners of the world, but he could not stop them. His powers were waning, and he felt that his time on the physical plane was coming to an end. And with that, the last Guardian of Azeroth vanished.
And now that my task is done, I will take my place amongst the legends of the past.
Archimonde might have been stopped, but the Lich King was still out there, and he was quickly getting out of control. Kil'jaeden makes contact with Illidan, and he puts him on the task of taking care of his wayward creation. The Night Elf was fully aware that he needed allies for this mission, and he had only heard rumors on the fate of the Highborn. Now I don't know when exactly he heard these rumors, probably while he was in jail. Either way, he used a powerful spell to reach them, and they actually answered. Led by Lady Vashj, the Naga allied with Illidan, not because of their history, not because of his powers, but because the old gods willed it. His quest to destroy the Lich King, that could spark a brand new war on Azeroth, one that would likely envelop the undead, the world's nations, and the Legion. With that kind of turmoil consuming Azeroth, the ogre Cho'gall and his cultist, they could awaken the old gods relatively unopposed. Her motives have always been a little bit vague. I always hoped that the connection with Illidan from the War of the Ancient trilogy, that might have played a part, but no, it's actually the old gods that wanted Vashj and the Naga to help out Illidan. They set off to the tomb of Sargeras, since Gul'dan's memories, they inform him about the power that's waiting there. They collect the Eye of Sargeras with the warder Maiev hot on their heels. Near Dalaran, Illidan works his magic to destroy the Lich King, and he's actually nearly successful, was it not for the combined might of the Night Elf and Blood Elf armies. Now in Warcraft 3, we had this whole arc with Tyrande falling in the water, Maiev lying about it, Kil'thuzad exposing her to Malfurion, and then the Stormrage brothers, they team up to save the beloved Tyrande. That no longer seems to be the case. Instead, it's the armies that make him fail Kil'jaeden's task, and he immediately escapes the Outlands, with Maiev quickly following. His attack on the Lich King, it did do some damage though, which allowed undead like Sylvanas to regain control and rise up, but the complete destruction, that was definitely a failure. On Outlands, the Legion, led by Macferiden, they already set up a base, since all of Ner'zhul's little portals, they made the planet a perfect staging ground for the Legion to invade from. Illidan gets captured by Maiev, who has no way of going back home, since the portal they used, it closed behind her, and thankfully for the Demon Hunter, we have Lady Vash and Kil'thuzad that save him. The Broken Akama, he also joins the mix. They took the Black Temple from Macferiden, Illidan proclaimed himself Lord of Outlands, but Kil'jaeden disagreed. He still had a job for the Demon Hunter to finish, taking out the Lich King, which Illidan, as we know, he failed at, and he went back to Outland to focus on his real mission, which was taking the battle to the Legion and take care of them once and for all. The whole storyline with Zera of the Army of the Light, that has not been mentioned within the Chronicles as she was within the Illidan novel, but that doesn't mean that it didn't happen. Similar to how they don't go into details about Jaina and Arthas their relationship, it's a lot of story that they need to cram into one single volume, and I always go with the mindset that if there's room for it, and it doesn't go against what the Chronicle says, then those moments still probably happened. So that right there are some of the more interesting bits that stood out for the Warcraft 3 storyline, which then flows into Classic until the end of the Cataclysm. Let us begin with the dragons, specifically Deathwing and his Black Dragonflight. He infiltrated Lordaeron under the disguise of Davol Prestor, and he manipulated events, which then caused Stormwind to stand alone against the First Horde invasion, and it splintered up the alliance of Lordaeron. He even has his kids, Nefarian and Onyxia, join him at court. Originally, he didn't reveal him as Prestor until well into the Second War, and his kids, they never joined him at court. They were sent out to infiltrate, as he himself, he was working with the orcs to get the Black Dragon Axe to Outlands. In the novel Day of the Dragon, we read about Ronin and Kresis. They're working on liberating the Red Dragon aspect Alexstrasza from the orcs who've been able to enslave her with Deathwing's manipulations. That story has probably changed the most, since it's now Deathwing himself that sent Ronin and a small party to the orcs to make them more vulnerable and come out of hiding. Ronin then rallies his friends Verisa Windrunner and Falstad Wildhammer, but originally they didn't even know each other before they started this quest. Alexstrasza is able to break herself free and kills her orc jailers before they can use the Demon Soul against her, and the other aspects, they decided to keep a close eye on the place after Kresis asked them to help. Like I said, the events of Days of the Dragon, they've been changed quite a bit, but the end result is still the same. The Demon Soul is destroyed, Alexstrasza is free, and Deathwing is on the run. Onyxia decides to infiltrate Stormwind, while Nefarian hangs out in Blackrock Mountain with the so-called True Hordes. Others that live within the mountain as well, they're the forces of Ragnaros and the enslaved Dark Iron Dwarves led by Dagran Pauruzan. He's actually described as being empowered by Ragnaros in order to kidnap the daughter of Magni Bronzebeard, namely Moira, and I love what they've done with Moira, as she still falls in love with Dagran, and we come in to kill him, but she decides to continue his work. He always dreamed of liberating their people from Ragnaros' control, so Moira lets out information that Ragnaros is amassing forces, that he's a threat to the world, and to sell it just a little bit more, she also lets the world know that there are riches and artifacts of untold power hidden deep within the mountain. She hoped that some adventurous or greedy heroes would band together to shatter Ragnaros' defenses and banish the Fire Lord back to the elemental plane. Her plan worked better than she could have ever dreamed. Before the Alliance and Horde acted on the rumors, another force did. The Hydraxian Waterlords, elemental beings of water who were the natural enemies of the Fire Lords. They offered any rewards to anyone who would challenge Ragnaros. She manipulated the world and was able to set her people free, but that was only just the beginning, since the people at the top of the mountain, the True Horde and Nefarian, they were still a threat to her people. Once again, she sends out information of the threat within the mountain, and once again, the True Horde and Nefarian, they were cleaned out by heroes of the world, specifically the Horde, and she beautifully secured the mountain for her people. Now with the Cataclysm and Ragnaros teaming up with Deathwing, some of her people decided to bend the knee to the Elemental Lord of Fire, while she herself made use of her father turning into a crystal, and she returned home to Ida Forge. I really wonder if those that bend the knee to Ragnaros, if they're going to be the same Dark Irons that are going to become our allied race. Also, as a side note, if you're interested in what faction gets the credit for what kill, link to the article down below. So Moira is definitely giving a lot more credit and explanation for history. Another one that gets a bit of a different role, that is Cho'gall. In the past, he played a big part in the comics, where we had Medan, Garona, Varian, the Meaning at Fedamore. But from the previous Chronicle, we already discovered that they'd removed Medan from the story. story. Volume 3 confirms that he is indeed gone, while Cho'gall and his Twilight Hammer, they're listening to the whispers of the old gods. Garona half-Orcan has her mind set free by Khadgar, and even though she desperately wanted to come with him through the Dark Portal, he asked her to hunt down Cho'gall, so that is exactly what she did. This slowed their efforts and pissed off the old gods greatly. Their whispers assaulted the ogre's mind until he had enough and he sets up a trap. He knew that Garona couldn't resist going for him personally, so he baited her into a fight and then he simply re-enslaves her. I really wonder why they even bothered to liberate her mind to begin with. I guess to put her on a road of meeting Cho'gall again. Either way, she's once again under his control as they set out for Silithus and Ankh-Iraj. He is the one that breaks C'Thun's chains even before the scare bows down, causing the world to rise up and do the near impossible, actually defeat an old god. Some of you actually asked if the Chronicles gave a clear answer on the old god's fates, but it just says that we defeated them and not actually killed. Now after doing his things with C'Thun, he actually travels to Northrend and there he visits Yogg-Saron. He's unable to completely break Yogg-Saron's bonds, but he is capable of chipping away at them, just enough for Yogg-Saron to take complete control of the facility and the local keepers. His will had become iron, but the events with C'Thun, it showed them that a unified alliance and horde, that they could be a great threat. That is the reason why Garona is still sent out to the peace meeting at Faramore. She's still disrupted, is still captured by Jaina and Aegwynn, but unfortunately they're unable to completely break the bonds on her mind, but she'll still use her willpower to hunt down Cho'gall and the cult. This mission she succeeded at with the Cataclysm, but it doesn't explain if, when and how Aegwynn is going to die, as her death was connected to Medan, nor does it explain how Merrill ends up with the Dreadlord Khafre inside of him, which is a story they actually used for the Mage Orderhawk campaign. The rest of the storylines, most of it is still pretty much the same, with some additional details and background information added, and it would just take way too long to cover every little thing, but as a last bit of information for this video, here are some quick things that stood out. They, for some reason, give credit to Thrall for rallying the troops in the founding of the Durotar campaign, but they still give credit to Rexxar for killing Dalen Proudmoore. The Alliance, it does not respond to Kul Tiras wanting revenge, which makes them very pissed, but not so much at the Alliance, they actually move their anger at the daughter that let her father die. In the past, there was a weird team-up between Balnazzar and Kel'thuzad with the whole Ashbringer-Mograine story arc. They somewhat cleaned it up with stating that Balnazzar survived Sylvanas and then simply murdered Alexandros for his own goals, something that then Kel'thuzad took advantage of as he collected the corpse and the corrupted Ashbringer. There was no allegiance between the two, which makes sense I suppose considering that the Dreadlords and the Scourge at that time, they were not exactly friendly, but leaving the Ashbringer underground, that doesn't really make sense. It is a better version in my opinion though. Now Lady Vush and her mission in Zangarmarsh, that was just to get water for the troops. This is not a major surprise, but it does kill any speculation on them working on creating a new Well of Eternity. Gil'thas teamed up with Kil'jaeden and the Legion because of his magical addiction. He found his way to the Fel through Illidan, but the Demon Hunter's secret mission against the Legion, it alienated his allies and it made Gil'thas vulnerable to Kil'jaeden and his sweet promises. More Fel, more power, Illidan not discussing what he was trying to do. If only the Demon Hunter was smart enough to actually trust a couple of more people. But then again, would he still be Illidan? Velen was actually ordered by Adal to go to Azeroth and bring in forces to help against the Legion and Outlands, something that Kil'jaeden was well aware of and he actually welcomed it. He wanted us to come to Outlands and pitch us against Illidan, which is why his forces reopened the Dark Portal and they lured us in. Sylvanas actually lies about who created the plague that was used at the Wrath Gates. This was done by her command, something that the Chronicle does confirm. It just also mentions that she lies about it and she placed the blame on Varimafras and Putris. The old god N'Zoth is said to be shrouded in an ocean of fever dreams amongst the bones of nameless horrors. There it remained untouched by the blades of mortals. As we already knew, N'Zoth played a big part in the events of the Cataclysm, with Deathwing breaking out of the world and trying to bring about the Hour of Twilight. He is vastly empowered by N'Zoth, which is the reason why he becomes all tentacle-like near the end. The reason why Garrosh and Cairn end up in Mak'gora. That's not because of the Twilight Orcs attacking a peaceful meeting between Alliance and Horde Druids. Instead, the motivation is Garrosh's warlike behavior that the old bull did not agree with. He responded in the only language he knew Garrosh would understand. He challenged him to Mak'gora. The ending of the Cataclysm, that's still pretty much the same, but they only said that the aspects lost a big portion of their power. There was nothing mentioned about their immortality or their ability to reproduce, which makes me wonder if they had a change of heart. It was also the perfect opportunity to clean up a bit of Nosdormu storyline when it comes to the whole time travel, Murozond thing, but they don't really do that. They give a bit of a description on a river of time and how the bronze dragonflight was supposed to keep it pure. It's pretty much the same as we knew it before. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is pretty much the major new things from the story of Chronicles Volume 3. Like I said, there's a lot more to cover, but, you know, it would simply take too long to go through the entire book. What I did find very cute though in the book was the way that they described our part in the story. It said, the entities, the old gods, were subtly fanning the flames of conflict to weaken the world's nations. If left unchecked, those small sparks would have spread to ignite a roaring wildfire of destruction. But they never had a chance to spread. It was not the legendary heroes of past wars who rose up to fight for the worlds. It was the ordinary citizens of Azeroth who intervened. They began their journeys for different reasons. Some fought for adventure or for the noble cause of justice. Some fought for vengeance and to join the war against the hated faction. Some even fought for money and looked for a way to profit from the conflicts. Still others fought for glory so that their name would be remembered by the entire world. And some traveled alone, while others formed mighty guilds that worked together to fight against the darkness. As the years passed, these extraordinary champions would be called upon to do the impossible. Without them, Azeroth would have surely succumbed to evil. That is our part to play. Ordinary people rising up to the challenge, and I'm very impressed with how they were able to summarize so much information into one single book. I'm not sure if another volume is going to be released. It does end with a to be continued, but could also be since the story is still going on. 3 or maybe 4 expansions. That might not be enough to get a Chronicle out right away, but all the same, I still very much enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want more details on all the things that I talked about today, then check out the related about article in the description down below. And for the giveaway, since I ordered 2 of them and both of them came in on the same time, if you want to win a Warcraft Chronicles Volume 3, then all you need to do is leave a comment down below. Specifically, I'm curious on what story or character development you're looking forward to the most in Battle for Azeroth. Is it the Alliance and Horde conflicts? Is it the Zandalari or the Dark Iron Dwarves? Or whatever it might be, let me know in the comments down below. And if you win, I'll get in touch with you through a direct message on YouTube. So do make sure that those are enabled. Right, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos. Ring that bell if you actually want to be notified, since that makes sense. Leave a like if you enjoyed it. All that good stuff. And until next time, guys. See ya!